Hello, my name is Zachariah Van Sliders with Old Man Gaming, and you have decided, for whatever reason, to tune into another horrible game review. Before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody I'm a house dad who does this as much as he can throughout his part time, so some quality issues may incur. Bear with me. Number two, I only get a few hours with a lot of these games because, like I said, house dad. So this is more of a snap judgment review, like first eyes on. I give you my opinions, and then I move on. So if you want an in-depth review, you should search one out at the different sites. Number three, I do not give games scored reviews. I do not believe in them for video games. I think it's one of the most subjective forms of art, and therefore, what you'll hear here today is an overview of the game itself. And then I will tell you the pros and the cons of the game in my personal opinion, as all reviews are. And I will let you know whether I personally will be sticking with this game outside the actual needs of this review. All right, with those out of the way, the game I am reviewing today is Journey to a Savage Planet. Hit Games Pass last week, and it is a very, very interesting game. Now, I'm going to just double down on that disclaimer about only getting a couple hours with it. I've had a lot on my plate with this channel as well as the house dad stuff, so I only got a few hours with this one. Nonetheless, I think I got enough to at least give you guys my opinions on it. So I'm going to be real gentle on it too, because I didn't get to any late stage gameplay or anything like that. So the commenters out there, I'm sure that you will point out how terrible I am, as you always do, but just going to do the best I can. So what Journey to Savage Planet is you take the role of this astronaut way, 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 way in the future, where companies basically send you to, it's like a program where you can get off Earth. They send you to another planet that might be habitable, and you have to just kind of like record data and explore the planet and basically beam back the information as to whether it is habitable or not. With that in mind, Earth is clearly not doing well. You get that right off the bat, and it is only compounded with more and more information that you get as you continue through the game. But what this game is very comedic. Like right off the bat, you have a lot of like very funny stuff here. There are full motion video movies that kind of highlight things, such as advertisements from companies back home for weird food substitutes. There's one where it's like sea monkeys, but it's replaced with like little teeny human things. And then, of course, full motion videos that kind of elaborate on the story that you're dealing with. It begins with no spoilers. You crash land on this planet, your ship is damaged, and you kind of have to venture out into the world, not just to explore, but also to figure out how to fix your ship. It happens pretty early on that you realize that there are alien structures on this planet, and the company that you work for wants you to explore them and investigate them. So as you go, basically you have a scanning mechanism that's not unlike No Man's Sky, where everything you kind of can beam in on and get more information on, whether it be the creatures of the world or the flora of the world. Something that stands out, though, is you are constantly befriended and followed by this female voice AI system that just basically has something funny to say about everything you look at or scan or do, which is a lot of fun. There is some combat. You do end up becoming able pretty early on to make a pistol gun that you can shoot at both the passive creatures and aggressive creatures that try to attack you as you move through. Now, the game kind of works almost like a Metroid-vania. Don't love that term. I know the business uses it a lot, but basically the idea behind it is the entire world is open right at the beginning, but to get to certain parts of it, you have to craft certain items that allow you to change the way you move to access new places, such as you'll need to find pieces to craft a grappling hook so that you can grapple up to higher places. You'll have to find pieces to craft the gun to shoot through things, stuff like that. The game concentrates heavily on this kind of exploration, kind of really testing your boundaries and seeing what you can do with the world and the flora and fauna around you. All right, with that overview out of the way, let's get into the pros and cons of it. Let's start with pros. I always like to start positive. Number one, this game is very unique. And I like the way that they are kind of trying to show you a different way to do things. They're trying to make it so that you can think of how to do stuff and kind of do it your own way, which is nice. The biggest pro I want to point out, though, in this game, without a doubt, is the writing. All of the advertisements you see that kind of play on a screen in your ship, as well as the recorded messages from your boss, are hysterical, at least to me. Maybe some other people might not find them funny, but I was chuckling through the whole thing. But even more so, the stuff that the computer AI says to you as you scan things, I was laughing out loud every time I couldn't wait to scan things just to hear what she would say. And she doesn't actually say something on everything you scan, and I almost found myself getting really bummed when she didn't talk. It's the high point of this game is very clearly the writing. Graphically, is another pro I'd like to talk about. The world itself is really pretty and really interesting. It looks a way that not other games look, and I like that. Like, it's very unique in its appearance and its presentation, and that was something that kind of really got my blood going when I got into it. It kind of made me feel like I can't wait to get to that next area to see what stuff looks like, just because it's presented in such a weird way, from weird blops and bloops, weird creatures. There's a creature you meet real early on that's like two-headed. If you shoot it, it becomes one-headed and two creatures. But it also screams really loudly, like it's in a horror movie, and just runs around, which was hysterical for some reason to me. What's hilarious is they never turn that off once you start shooting them. So anytime you walk through that area, there's just a couple of them running around just screaming at the top of their lungs. Which I found very funny. It's just that kind of uniqueness that this game really brings to the table as far as the playing. So with that said, I have to kind of move into the cons. Now, one thing that I saw some other reviews say is that in the later game, it becomes a little bit more about the shooting and less about the exploration, stuff like that. It becomes very linear. I can't speak to that. I did not get far enough into it. So I don't want to be too overtly mean on the con side just because I didn't get enough time with this game. However, there is a lot of combat in this game, and one thing this game falsely kind of advertises, they kind of presented this as kind of like an exploration, figure stuff out, kind of cool game like that where you can do stuff without fighting, whereas that's just not the truth. Right off the bat, you are fighting stuff. Heck, one of the first things you're asked to do is bitch slap a little creature to get carbon out of it. And that creature can, if you fail to bitch slap it, actually attack you. So combat is prevalent through the entire game. So while maybe I was wrong about the message they sent out pre-launch, there's a lot of combat in this game, and unfortunately the combat is probably the weakest area of this game. The shooting doesn't feel good. The dodging is really hard to time and really kind of wonky. This is a very difficult game to fight in, and there is a lot of combat, surprisingly enough, while it was never really presented that way. And so I got to kind of give them cons for that, because I found myself really having a hard time fighting in this game, and I found myself doing it a lot, which I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to. I was kind of hoping I could find ways around the fighting, because that's kind of the way I felt it was presented, and I could be wrong. I might get some hate for that, but it's definitely a downside for me. So with that said, it brings us to the stick with it, because there weren't more cons than that, honestly. As far as whether I'm going to stick with it or not, I want to say right off the bat, before I go any further, the stick with it is a very my own opinion sort of situation, probably the most my own opinion segment of my reviews. With that said, I'm not going to stick with this game. But I do want to say this is a fantastic game. There are some downsides. There is a lot of combat, and the combat is not exactly fluid or smooth, but it's also serviceable. It's not like I was ever doing combat and didn't feel like I could win. It just was a little bit harder than I wanted to participate in. So it's not a bad game. It's a good game. It's a very well-made game, and the dialogue is really good. It's almost enough to have me come back, but the moment-to-moment gameplay just isn't my style. Yeah, so I'm not going to stick with this just because I don't think it grabbed me enough for me to take me away from so many of the other things that I'm playing and doing at the time. Nonetheless, still a fantastic game. Definitely worth a try, especially if you have Games Pass. It's free right now. But it's not a game for me, and it's not something I'm going to stick with. So with that done, the review's done. It was a little bit of a short one. I was a little bit more to the point, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you did, please stay and check out more of my reviews or everything else the channel has to offer. Too many to plug right now. One thing I want to say is I'm really open to doing requests for reviews right now because there's not a whole lot of new games coming out. Keep in mind, I only have an Xbox, and I have games. I have to be able to get it for free because I am not a rich man. So if it's in Games Pass and you want to find out if you should give it a try, please comment below in the below this video, or you can find us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH. You can also find us on Twitter at OldManGaming9, and the link to our Discord is in the description below, and we have a chat section dedicated to the reviews. So if you want to request anything there, and I'll do just about anything you guys want. So yeah, I'm open to suggestions. And finally, as usual, as long as you guys keep watching and listening to this, we'll keep making them. And I'll see you guys next week, no matter what.
So, I guess we're flinging poop now?